One of the most robust findings in the field of psychology is this notion of attachment styles. And this was something that was discovered through a beautiful set of studies that were done by Mary Ainsworth in the 1980s, in which she developed a laboratory condition called the strange situation task. Now, the strange situation task has been studied over and over again in different cultures, in different locations throughout the world, and indeed all three of them said, if ever there was a literature in psychology that is absolutely tamped down and has a firm basis in both data and real-world principles and real-world examples, it's this notion of attachment styles.
The roots of resilience are to be found in the sense of being understood by and existing in the mind and heart of a loving, attuned, and self-possessed other. Dr. Bowlby, father of attachment theory. Attachment is the invisible thread that shapes how we love, connect, and even argue. Think about it. How many of you remember sitting around the dinner table in the 1970s or 80s before smartphones, when conversations and family dynamics were raw and unfiltered? Those moments built our models of safety or insecurity. Statistics show that nearly 40% of adults struggle with some form of insecure attachment. That means nearly half of us may carry old wounds into present-day relationships.
If you have an insecure attachment style and want to learn how to be more secure in your relationship, people raised in a stable family structure where they received consistent love and support usually default to the secure attachment style. They had healthy love modeled to them, so creating compatible relationships comes more naturally to them. Now, the rest of us might have been taught that love always ends in cheating, divorce, or abandonment. And as children, we internalize everything that happens to us till around the age of 6. Our parents were our main source of protection, and so we can't comprehend that anything could possibly be wrong with them. So if they're yelling or screaming or leaving the family, we literally think that it's our fault, which leads to insecure attachment and shows up later in our relationships. And this gets embedded in our subconscious beliefs about ourselves and will remain there unless you learn how to heal. The first step is understanding attachment theory. Once you identify the unhealthy patterns that you bring into relationships, you can learn how to catch yourself, assess if your nervous system is reacting to a false sense of fear, and learn how to react with your logical brain instead.
Heller begins by showing us that attachment isn't just about childhood. It's the blueprint for every relationship we'll ever have, from friendships to marriages to even how we parent our own children. So chapter 1 is attachment, the hidden blueprint. Heller writes that many of us carry hidden injuries, wounds that don't show on the outside but still shape our behavior. For example, a person who avoids intimacy isn't cold. They're carrying a blueprint of protection from long ago. A Harvard longitudinal study found that the quality of relationships, not wealth or health, was the single biggest predictor of happiness in old age. Think back to when you were a kid trading baseball cards or walking into a diner where everybody knew your name. That sense of being known is what secure attachment feels like. And many of us don't have any idea what that feels like. So in chapter 2, Heller writes about the secure attachment model. This is the gold standard. A securely attached child grows up knowing they can reach out and someone will respond. Adults with secure attachment usually have healthier marriages, better stress management, and stronger friendships.
How do adults with secure attachment style act? They are sociable, warm, engaging, easy to interact with. They have awareness of their feelings and emotions and the ability to express them. They're also generally surrounded with long-term relationships and friendships. People with secure attachment style are also generally well-liked by their coworkers and peers and colleagues. If you are seeking to develop a more secure attachment style in relating to people, here are some areas you can focus on: regulating your emotions and learning what you need from others, opening up to others, learning to build trust, communicating what your needs are, getting comfortable with being alone with your thoughts, setting personal goals individually for you, not just goals as a couple, seeking support from your support system, your friends, your family, your romantic partner. And finally, develop an ability to understand your role in a friendship or in a relationship. Be accountable for your role in it and how you can contribute to shifts in the relationship.
Heller reminds us that secure attachment is not perfection. It's not about parents never making mistakes. It's about good enough parenting where repair happens after rupture. She stresses that repair is more powerful than perfection because it teaches resilience. Only about 50 to 60% of adults report secure attachment. That means nearly half of us are navigating life with insecure styles. Are you suffering from an attachment style like I am?
Star episode author Diane Poole Heller.
You might ask, why study trauma and attachment? Well, I think those two topics get in our way from really being the most we can be, the most expanded part of ourselves. And when we have unresolved trauma, it can just limit our lives in a pretty major way. And when we have unresolved attachment histories, where really our original relational blueprint comes from, then these patterns that might not be serving us so well have a tendency to sneak into our adult relationships.
Heller says when we learn to repair disconnections, we don't just fix relationships, we deepen them. Remember when a broken toy could be fixed with a little tape and somehow it became even more precious? That's the essence of repair. Chapter 3 is avoidant attachment.
Here's my top 4 signs of an avoidant attachment style in adult relationships. Number 4, when your partner seeks intimacy with you, the barriers go up, and the more they try to get close, the more you pull back. Number 3, you hold back on starting new relationships because it's so hard to trust people. Number 2, you sometimes end relationships to gain a sense of freedom. And number 1, you keep your partner emotionally at arm's length because it feels safer, but they often accuse you of being distant.
Here we enter the world of emotional distance. Children with avoidant attachment learned early that reaching out got them nothing or rejection, so they shut down. They grow up independent to the point of isolation. And I know someone right now who suffers from this. The mother went to work and the father stayed home, and he was a Vietnam veteran. So he raised his child a certain type of way, and now she's a certain type of way. And she has avoidant attachment style. Very calm, very logical, very quiet. She learned that was her way of protecting herself and not letting herself get hurt. So about 25% of adults identify with avoidant attachment. Remember when kids in school would say, "I don't care," even when you knew they did? That's avoidant attachment in action. Protection through pretending not to care. Carl Jung once wrote, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important." And thank you guys for listening to the You Only podcast. And today I wanted to go over a book that I've been actually using this book for, I would say, about 2.5 to 3 years. And Heller just gives you so much. And this book is The Power of Attachment. She gives you so much information in this book. And if you don't know anything about attachment styles, this would be one book that could actually get you started understanding yourself and what happened to you. And this is the part of the segment I want to share what happened to me and what kind of attachment style I have. So I was born into a situation of chaos, fighting, no one getting along, and it was always a type of turmoil there. And my mother wound up being forced into raising children without fathers because that became a thing. When dad disappeared, mom had to play both the mom and the dad. And I used to always tell my mom, "I love you so much because, you always had to play the mom and the dad, and that can't be easy for anybody." But what I didn't realize back then is that my mom was the person who gave me love. But my mom was also a vicious, abusive punisher. when you went against the things that she said. And so my mom creating chaotic situations in which my mom has antisocial behaviors. She's had, over 6 DUIs. She's shows signs of narcissism and other behavior types that are concerning. And so now that I've allowed her to live with me at one point this past year, and I've gotten to know who she was, and I've had this time to psychoanalyze it. I realize, and I realized this long before that I had this attachment style. I just didn't know until recently that it was caused by a parent having to be the person who loves you and also punishes you, but not in an appropriate manner, because my mom had no emotional control or self-control. When you didn't listen, my mom would literally grab you by your throat and mop the floor with you. And that's what she did to me every day of my life for a long time. If I didn't do the dishes right, my mom drew blood with her fingernails, and I walked away or I limped away half the time, and it's a tough life for a kid to have to try to develop while they're loving their mom, but she is acting as though she can't stand you half the time, That's a tough situation for someone to have to grow up in. And I grew up in that. And it was chaotic and it was unfair. And no children should ever have to pursue an attachment style if they were loved right, nurtured right, and given the tools that every kid deserves. So I also want to say that the disorganized, chaotic attachment style is similar to avoidant attachment style. And that's why I wanted to share that with you, which that'll come later in this episode. So chapter 4 of The Power of Attachment talks about ambivalent anxious attachment. This attachment style is born from inconsistency. Sometimes the parent is warm, other times distant. The child learns, I don't know when I get love, so I better cling. As adults, these individuals crave closeness, but are haunted by fear of abandonment. They may overthink texts, worry constantly about relationships, and swing between love and anxiety. Could you imagine having to be that person with ambivalent anxious attachment? Always worried, it must age them so much.
Star episode author Diane Poole Heller.
So if we go to ambivalent, one of the things that's really important to understand about ambivalent is they reacted to their early challenges with caregiving or whatever the circumstances were by overactivating their attachment system. So they are hyper alert to social cues about connection and disconnection. And the problem is they're really good at reading cues. The difficulty is they tend to misinterpret them gravely towards the negative. So you could be smiling and they might somehow figure out a way to think that means rejection. It's just they are so hyper focused on, am I being liked? Am I being rejected? And boy, social media just kills us on that anyway.
Roughly 20% of adults are anxiously attached. Heller says the anxious partner doesn't want too much. They want enough. Enough consistency, enough reliability, enough presence. Think of waiting by the phone in the 1980s, wondering if your crush would call your house line. That anxiety, that mix of hope and dread, captures the ambivalent experience of the rotary dial. I know you guys remember that. Sure do miss those days. I know you do too. Chapter 5 is what I had spoke about just a second ago. Disorganized chaotic attachment. This is the most painful style. Heller explains that it often develops when the caregiver is both the source of love and fear. Imagine a child running to a parent for comfort, but that same parent is also abusive, neglectful, and frightening. And that's how my mom was. And it's unfortunate, but I am a child abuse survivor because of her and what went on in the 80s and early 90s. And a lot of kids went through that back then like I did. I'm not alone, and I know that. So adults with disorganized attachment often wrestle with inner chaos, and I do, and it's terrible sometimes. They may desperately want closeness, but also feel terror when it arrives. Relationships become push-pull. Come here, go away. I love you, I hate you. Research shows that 70 to 80% of abused children develop disorganized attachment. And Heller stresses disorganized attachment is not a life sentence. With compassion, therapy, and self-awareness, it can heal.
Did you know your attachment style could be sabotaging your relationships? Disorganized attachment's a survival mechanism that leaves you feeling caught between craving closeness and fearing it at the same time. Now, this isn't your fault. This style often stems from childhood experiences where our caregivers were a source of both comfort and fear, creating confusion about whether relationships are safe or threatening. This push-pull dynamic can make relationships feel overwhelming, leaving you stuck in a cycle of longing for connection, while at the same time feeling the need to protect yourself from it. Here are 5 signs that you may have a disorganized attachment style. 1, you feel torn between wanting closeness and pushing it away. One moment you may crave that intimacy and connection, but as soon as it's within reach, you feel overwhelmed or scared and pull back. This creates a confusing cycle for both you and your partner. 2, you struggle to trust others and yourself. You may doubt your partner's intentions or question whether you're truly lovable. At the same time, you may also doubt your own feelings, unsure if you can trust your instincts in relationships. 3, you fear rejection, but also feel uncomfortable with closeness. Just the idea of being abandoned terrifies you, but when someone gets too close, you may feel suffocated or trapped. This creates constant tension between wanting love and fearing it. 4, you experience intense emotional swings in relationships. One day you may feel deeply connected and secure, but the next you could be overwhelmed by fear, anger, or sadness.
I hate you.
These shifts can feel unpredictable and hard to manage. 5, you ruminate over past hurts in your current relationship. If you've experienced trauma or inconsistent care, you may find yourself reacting to your partner in ways that feel disproportionate to the situation. Old wounds can resurface, making it hard to stay present and grounded. If this sounds familiar, it's never too late to change. Understanding your attachment style is the first step towards building healthier, more fulfilling relationships.
And for me, these past few years of working through, chaotic attachment style, I learned that was how I really self-soothed my whole life dealing with this, and having a parent like that, never knowing if I was going to go try to give her love, if she was going to jack slap me or fly off the handle because she was actually mentally ill. No kid deserves to be treated like that. We need to protect our kids and show them compassion, structure, and discipline, the things that drive kids to become great people. It's like tuning an old radio and never getting a clear signal. Static, interruptions, a flicker of music, but never steady. That's what love feels like when it's chaotic, and I suffer from that every day. But as time goes on, it gets better and better because I have power. Sometimes if I have an episode, I just put my hand on my heart and I literally say out loud, this is chaotic attachment style. And it literally ceases right there, subsides. It don't even arise one more moment because I label it, I kill it, I own it. And that's what we have to learn to do with these different things that come up. We have to learn coping skills that work for our person, and we understand why we're coping. We're trying to get to the root cause of what happened, heal it, obviously acknowledge that it happened, let it go, and move forward with resilience. Chapter 6, Healing Attachment Wounds. This is where hope enters. Heller shows the healing begins with awareness and continues with practices like somatic therapy, mindfulness, and breath work, which we've talked about all 3 of those in several of my past episodes. So go back and listen to those and you'll be caught up to this episode. She emphasizes that body remembers trauma. We've talked about that in past episodes. Even when the mind tries to forget. That's why techniques like breath work, taking 6 conscious breaths a minute, are so powerful. They reset the nervous system, teaching the body safety again. Healing attachment wounds means learning to trust again. Trust in others, but also the most important is trusting in yourself. How can you trust in someone else if you still have the training wheels of life upon you? It's impossible. And studies show that therapy focusing on attachment repair can reduce symptoms of PTSD and depression by up to 50% in just 1 year. And I know that's true because it worked the first year I started doing work with knowing that I had chaotic attachment style and PTSD. It's really become full circle. And that's why I wanted to do this book today, is because I wanted to share with you some stuff that I suffer from. So think of an old family photo album. Some pages are torn, some pictures faded, but when you look at it, the love is still there. Healing is about carefully taping those pages back together. In part 4, I want to tell you as we close, remember this. Your attachment style is not your destiny. It's your starting point. Healing is possible. Connection is possible. Love is possible. Thank you, my faithful listeners, for walking with me in this journey. To my friends in India, the Philippines, Egypt, Bangladesh, and America, you are the lifeblood of the You Only podcast. Until next time, breathe deeply, live present, and remember, you only get one you.
You Only podcast. Below Jackson, rewire the mind. Yeah, the thoughts keep flashing. 60,000 strong, we just keep on growing. Emotional intelligence, a vibe keep flowing. You Only podcast. One mind, one show. Awareness in your soul, let the knowledge just grow. You Only podcast. Below Jackson, rewire the mind. Yeah, the thoughts keep flashing. 60,000 strong, we just keep on growing. Emotional intelligence, a vibe keep flowing.